It's cozy.
Morning. Hi, Ian. Oh, hi.
You should have seen me on that couch trying to rack my brain about that
Metaphysical, yeah.
I was sitting there like, okay, it's simple. Just be simple. I'm sitting there racking my brain for 40 minutes.
It's not that, it's kind of hard.
It was hard.
Hi, Troy. I feel like you're wielding that charger like a weapon.
What?
I feel like you're wielding that like a weapon.
Why?
I don't know. It's just your demeanor is threatening. I don't know. I don't know. It looks like you're gonna like whip it around and hit me with it. I wouldn't be surprised. Ian, Corey, Troy, Brendan. Okay, go ahead while I'm waiting on these folks. Building castles in the sky, just the two of us. Just the two of us. Whoa. Okay, let me let these people in.
Stand up. But I don't really hear this type of stuff right here
Let's see who we got. Christian's here. And no Hayward yet. Eli, Nate, Chip, Sterling, Mondarius. I'll wait just a minute and see if Hayward shows up. Building castles in the sky, just the two of us. Just the two of us. Oh, guys, we only have 2 more weeks. And then we get a nice long break. It's going to be so good. I'm so ready for it.
Did you grade those tests yet?
I have not yet.
Yeah, because it's still on I answered all the questions you sent.
You just didn't submit. Yeah, you can go ahead and submit it. Okay. Well, if Hayward shows up, then it'll be okay. Okay. So first thing that we have going on today, other than me messing up my computer, is a new vocab unit. And with vocab, obviously, comes a quiz on Friday, and we'll do a little bit of review before that. I've posted it in Canvas, and it's listed as an assignment, but you don't have to turn it in. You don't have to submit it. It's for your own benefit because it's a fill-in-the-blank thing. We'll go over the words together, and then I'll give you guys a few minutes to do the fill-in-the-blank, and then we'll go over it. But it's just an assignment so that each of you can have a copy. so that you can keep it and study with it. If you look at it, it's called a modest proposal vocabulary, but you won't really know what a modest proposal is until tomorrow. I have no idea when the report card comes out, or progress report. It'll be a progress report. I think it is before Christmas, but I asked Miss Kokel the other day and she didn't have an exact date for me. So whenever I know, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Oh, well, I didn't say anything super important other than the fact that we're about to do a new vocab unit. Yes. And it's also, you don't see it?
I went into the modules part and then all of
Yeah. Yeah, it should be in this week's module, and then way down at the bottom, satire vocabulary. And then when you open it up, it's this. So I'll share my screen with you folks. I don't think it's going to be this week. I think it would be next week in regards to the progress report. Pretty sure. I just think they would have already told us if it was coming out this week. Okay, so let's go over these words together, and then I'll give you all a few minutes to work on the multiple choice. These are all several of them are like kind of big-ish words, but you will have heard several of them before. The first one is a verb, importune, which means to beg persistently. I feel like we've had other words that mean the same thing, but we haven't heard the word importune before. Number 2, livelihood, you're probably familiar with. A means of securing the necessities for life, the way that someone earns money. Teaching is my livelihood. Number 3 is prodigious, which means extensively great in size, degree, or extent, which means that it could be used for a bunch of different things. Like it could be that somebody has a prodigious appetite. It could be that somebody has prodigious skill. It could be that somebody has a prodigious amount of something, but just means big and great. Number 4 is deplorable. It's an adjective that means deserving strong condemnation, shockingly bad. I can't remember what the reference was, but I remember Donald Trump making the news a while back because he kept referring to somebody as deplorables. I can't remember. It was highly offensive, I'm sure, whatever it was, but maybe like, I don't know, immigrants or something, which is terrible. Number 5 is grievance. You see the word grieve in there, so that probably gives you a little clue, but this is a noun that means a cause for complaint or protest, especially over unfair treatment. Like for instance, if I have a grievance against one of my coworkers, there are like a couple of designated people I'm supposed to go to file my grievance. Number 6 is raiment, which is just another word for clothing or garments. Number 7, you may have heard before, renowned, which means known or talked about by many people or famous. Number 8 is modest, which means moderate, not bold or assertive, humble. That could also have like a couple of different meanings. You could have like a modest attitude. If you had like a modest amount of money, it would be like not much money. But it can be used sort of several different ways. Number 9 is repine, which means to feel or express discontent, to fret or to wish or long for something. So like you're not happy with the state of affairs and you're like desperate for it to change. And number 10 is parsimony, which is unwillingness to spend money or use resources, like when you're frugal or like a penny pincher. Okay, so you've got 10 questions here, 10 fill in the blank. I'm going to give you guys probably like 7 or 8 minutes to work on it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen too because there's no point. Oh, here comes Hayward. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh, his audio is not wanting to connect. But I'll go ahead and change his attendance. Yeah, so I'll give you guys a few minutes to work on those, and then we'll go over them. I'll probably explain it again once Hayward's audio connects. Give you about 2 or 3 more minutes. Oh my God, Christian, your face is so close. All I saw was like your eye for a second. Okay, everybody ready or we need another minute? Okay, let's go over it then. Oh, wrong thing. Okay, the first one. Even though Daisy was now married, I don't know if y'all read this book or not, but you should still be able to get it. Even though Daisy was now married, Gatsby couldn't help blanking over the love they had once shared.
Importune?
What did you say? You put what? Not grieving, not importuning either.
I didn't even answer that. I didn't know.
So he,
Fine.
yes, repine. Perfect. He couldn't help repining. He was like wishing or longing that they still had that same kind of love. Okay, number 2, Miss Kim had blank skill on the violin as well as the piano.
Renowned?
Prodigious. Yeah. You guys in here got that one. She should be renowned because she's so great, but her skill was prodigious. Very great. Number 3, because of some petty blank, the girl hasn't spoken to her best friend in over 2 weeks. Also, there should be a comma there. A petty, like,
You said which one again?
number 4.
Oh, I put there's
You put what?
there's
Oh my gosh, number 3. Yeah, sorry. Yes, grievance. I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. Hey, Miss Darling. No.
Come to my office.
Okay.
We're gonna talk to you about the senior stuff.
Okay. Number 4, Ebenezer Scrooge was a man who showed great blank, but the 3 spirits showed him how to be generous. Parsimony is correct. Number 5, in some cultures, it's frowned upon for women to wear brightly colored blank. Raiment, yes. Number 6, when I realized my boss was in a good mood, I figured it would be a good time to blank him about working from home on Wednesday. Which one works there?
This one should be importune, right?
Yes, correct. Just kidding. I'm not going to importune him because he'll say no. Number 7, the students got put in ISS, which we don't really have right now, do we? I don't know. For 3 days because of their blank behavior. Deplorable, yes. Number 8, even though he is a millionaire, he lives in a blank home and drives an old car. This was one of those words that could kind of be used several different ways.
Which one?
Number 8,
Modest.
modest. Yes, he lives in a modest home. Because he's a millionaire, he could afford a big one, but he chooses not to. Number 9, several of the students have plans to make their blank in the music industry one day. Livelihood, yep. And last, Stephen King is a very blank author that many readers adore. Renowned, perfect. Okay, so you guys are going to keep those. Again, you don't have to submit it. You just want to make sure that you have all the right answers there. I probably will not change the sentences. I don't have this quiz made out yet, I don't think. So, keep this and use it to study with. Okay, so if you look at Canvas, I've posted one other thing, which is ballads and satire notes. We're going to go over just the satire part today. We'll go over ballads later on in the week. But the next couple of days, we're going to kind of spend on satire. Anybody have any idea what satire is while I'm getting that pulled up? Or like have a vague idea? No idea. No worries, we're going to learn. I'm going to get this pulled up and then I'll share my screen with you guys. Okay, now this looks crazy. Okay, so we're kind of 17th and 18th century literature is kind of together. So, we just did the metaphysical stuff the other day, and I don't want you to forget about that yet. Your poem is due on Wednesday, but all this stuff is kind of together. We're looking at like 16th through 18th centuries right here. So we're going to learn about satire first, and this time period is called the Restoration. And, obviously we'll look and see what's going on in the world at this time. So the reason it's called the Restoration is because the monarchy is being restored, like around 1660. This is like right about when the Enlightenment is happening. And the Enlightenment's a thing that went on in like not just England, but the United States and all the rest of Europe too. And it's really a philosophical movement that emphasizes the natural rights of life, liberty, and property, which sounds kind of familiar. That's kind of some American ideals there. But like I said, this is happening everywhere. Writers, artists, politicians, people like that, big thinkers and creative people are gathering in coffee houses to exchange ideas and conduct business and gossip, because that's always fun. And that's the thing that we still do today, like gather in coffee houses to hang out and share ideas. So there are some improvements in the way of life around this time, living conditions and changes in the way of life. There are dramatic advancements in agriculture, which obviously have some far-reaching effects. There are some advancements in breeding, which yields larger animals, which means we can move things further, and then also obviously like we can eat bigger animals, and also steam power for the first time. So there's a lot that kind of opens up a lot of doors. So the Industrial Revolution really changes ways of life for everybody. Women and children labored long hours for low pay, which is obviously something that we would want to correct. And there's this just mass of restless, impoverished workers that grow like really restless during this period because they want better lives for themselves, obviously. So this is really important too. There are some changes in language. We can kind of look back at the language from the poems that we looked at the other day and see that that's pretty old. It might be sort of hard to understand, but the Industrial Revolution and like the Restoration period really starts to change things into more of the language that we would use now. Samuel Johnson wrote the Dictionary of the English Language in 1755. That's a big deal. It was based on Latin. So the rules were often inappropriate, or like they didn't work for English, which is one reason why English like doesn't make much sense. If you've studied other languages, which we all have, they're like all these rules that you can follow for pretty much every word, or like every verb follows this particular way of conjugating it. English doesn't do that. English is such a hard language to learn. And this is one reason why. Like, we're trying to use all these Latin rules, but it doesn't work for our language. And then also there's the fact that a lot of overseas colonization brought a lot of new words and increased differences in spoken English. So we're just getting like a lot of new words that we're kind of adopting from other countries and their languages. So the literature around this time stressed balance and logic, sophisticated wit, and emotional restraint, which, you know, might be a little bit different than the poems that we looked at the other day, because those were like pretty emotional. This is when the novel came about. Robinson Crusoe is kind of looked on as the first novel, and it was written right around here. And then towards the end of the period, poetry started to reflect themes that were closer to the human heart, and that kind of transitions us into Romanticism, which we'll start looking at after Christmas. Oop. Oh, okay. Sorry, I gotta exit this for one quick sec. Okay. So satire. The 18th century was the golden age of satire. And so when we talk about satire, we're talking about a literary technique that mixes criticism with humor. It's usually used to encourage social reform. So it can get kind of confused with like parody. Parody is when you're making fun of something or like imitating it in a funny way. But satire takes that one step farther and is intended to criticize whatever it is that it's imitating. Whatever it's talking about, like whatever the subject is, it's intended to criticize it, make fun of it. And there are a couple different kinds of satire that I'll talk about in just a second, but it has the intent of trying to make a change. So there's two types of satire. These are complicated words to remember, but we'll do okay. Horatian satire kind of makes me think of Horatio. And that's just like playfully funny and amusing. And Horatian satire seeks to correct a vice or foolishness with gentle laughter. So it's kind of easygoing. It's not harsh or anything. It's just like playfully making fun. Juvenalian satire, however, is a darker kind of laughter. It's sort of bitter, and it criticizes corruption or incompetence with scorn and outrage. So Juvenalian is going to be like a lot more hard-hitting than Horatian satire. Like I kind of think about comedians who make fun of stuff, and you kind of feel like, ooh, should you be like making fun of that? That would be more like Juvenalian satire. So the point of satire is that it comments on and criticizes society. It makes fun of a topic by making it seem ridiculous. Nowadays, some examples of satire, like satire is very, very commonly used now. News commentators, political cartoonists, comedians, screenwriters, songwriters. In particular, Saturday Night Live is a huge one. Like most of SNL is satire, Mad TV. We'll look at some specific examples tomorrow so that we can kind of see like how is this using satire? What's it trying to make fun of? What kind of change is it trying to inspire? We'll look at some like modern day stuff tomorrow. So how to recognize satire. The author might clue the reader in that he's writing satire, or he might not. He might cite previous satires. Tomorrow we're going to look at like the most famous example of satire. Satirical subject matter and its treatment can be concrete, topical, and personal subjects. It's often going to allude to the gossip of the moment, like whatever's happening in the world right now. Freshness is important. For the most part, nobody's going to care 50 or 100 years later. Like if we were to look at an SNL clip 50 years from now, we probably wouldn't understand a lot of it because it's so topical, it's so relevant to like what's happening in the world right now. And we might not remember that 50 years from now. If we were to look at satire from 50 or 100 years ago, we might not really understand that either, just because it's so topical. So some elements of satire style, it's often going to contain cruel and even dirty words. Like it can be kind of vulgar sometimes. It'll contain comic words and terms, conversational, like non-literary language. This is not like academic essays by any stretch of the imagination. It tries to produce the unexpected, and the reader's often going to feel a mixture of amusement and contempt, like laughing at the way it's being talked about, but it's probably going to like incite some contempt for whatever subject it's criticizing. Some things that you will notice in satire, there's going to be a lot of paradox, antithesis, which is like two ideas that really go against each other, parody, anticlimax, like it's going to be kind of underwhelming or anticlimactic, often obscenity, violence, vividness, like really vivid language, exaggeration, and irony. So keep an eye out for all of those things. And that's it for the satire notes. Like I said, later on in the week, we'll finish this out and look at ballads. But I want to focus on satire first. So like I said, tomorrow we will we'll look at some modern day examples, and then we'll start looking at one major like 17th century example. Just trying to figure out what time it is. 9:38. Okay. So for the rest of the class, I want you guys to have some time to work on your metaphysical conceit poems. They're due Wednesday. I doubt that we'll have time in class tomorrow to work on them, but I wanted to make sure that you guys have some class time, and in case you guys want to ask me any questions or like run any ideas by me, I wanted to make sure that we had some class time for that. So if you guys who are virtual feel like, no, I've got a handle on this, I don't need help, I don't need to run anything past you, you guys can leave and work on it independently if you like, or you can stay on and work on them and ask me questions as they come to you. Yes, you may. But I'm going to go ahead and stop my video and mute myself, and if you guys have questions, just let me know.